Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Star Trek New Worlds. My name is Tony. Thank you for joining us here live today, Saturday, after, what has it been, like a month and a half of no live streaming? How has the world gotten by without us? I just don't know. But today we are going to be revisiting, and restarting our campaign. I shouldn't say restarting. We're just picking up where we left off with regards to the great battles, the epic struggle, and the conquering of the galaxy that seems to be going on. In case you have lost track of where we are in the game, I will give you a brief summary from the Klingon perspective as to where we are and what is going on. But to give you a teaser, to let you know how things are going in this great wide wonder that is our Star Trek New Worlds game, I will, in a second here, give you the latest highlights and the galactic news on what's going on. If it's your first time here and you're wondering, Tony, what in the world is Star Trek New Worlds? It is a turn-based strategy game that we play here online with you, using the rule set of Federation and Empire as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau. We populate the map using the magic of Vassal. And of course, we stream it to you live now every Saturday at 11 o'clock Pacific time, right now on YouTube, on Facebook Live, and of course, Twitch, for as long as that lasts. So if you are so inclined, then please feel free to follow us along here by either hitting the subscribe button, being like Jose Volante there, and joining us as we make our way slowly towards that magic number 500. I feel like we've been saying that 500 number for so long, but regardless, the entire purpose here of Star Trek New Worlds is to build a community around this game that we play. Hopefully you get to participate, enjoy the fun, play against other players who like Star Trek, sci-fi, strategy, and all things like that. But without further ado, let me get to the exciting stuff that is the galactic news. When dinosaurs ruled the Earth, the Gorn harmony has extended its reach into the Balkans. Elements of the Gorn fleet moved to capture all the worlds of the former Terran Confederacy. In the Sol system, there was a brief battle as the last Klingon patrol on station put up a spirited defense. This was followed by orbital bombardment and landing ship invasion the galaxy is all too familiar with. Now, there are lizard boots on Terra, and the age of the dinosaurs has returned. Not in my backyard. Klingon forces, consolidated again, have purged the Romulan presence from all of the worlds within their borders. In addition, they have sent major forces across the border, threatening the Romulan homeworlds. For the first time in this lengthy war, is this a bargaining chip for peace negotiations, or are the Klingons moving to eliminate the Romulans once and for all? Web of conflict in Tholian space. There has been a pause in the fighting as both sides build up forces in the vicinity of the Sierra 25 wormhole. Reman ships have been sighted supporting the ISC presence there. The Tholians haven't been passive, moving significant fleet elements close enough to the wormhole to act should violence break out again. Is this an uneasy truce or a calm before the storm? Second verse, same as the first. In a mirror of the situation in Tholian space, Carnivons are building up a permanent presence in the wormhole in Romeo 39. Guarding this new base is a fleet representing over a third of their total force. This might be a purely defensive force, but the Gorn are keeping their own watch on the area with a fleet of their own stationed at the museum world of Thin. No fights have been reported in several months, but you could cut the tension with a phaser. And that is our galactic news. All right. So before we dive into the latest and greatest of what's going on, let's say a quick hello to everybody out there who is joining us live. Bill, our Gorn Harmony player, is in the house raising shields, charging the coffee plasma fire. Devin Dean is here standing by. We have You Can't Be Petty. Hello, all. Great to see you guys. Woohoo! You Can't Be Petty. How tricks, Haas? I always love the banter back and forth because it doesn't always make sense to me. It's always good. George Fortnell is in the house. Hey, y'all. Bill, glad to have you back. Daniel, the GM, of course, back from his vacation way yonder. Now back to cause havoc and let slip the dogs of war. And it seems like there's quite a few of you out there. 8 of you currently watching us live. Actually, 9, according to my stats. 9 concurrent viewers, and we are looking to crack that magic double digits once again. All right, so let's have a quick discussion about what it is that was the build-up to where we are right now. In an effort to sort of bring you along the story, let's take a journey back, way back to turn 46. To keep you in mind, we are currently at turn 103, and this is the map way back when in turn 46. We were still nothing but small empires bumping into the outstretched arms of other infant empires seeking to conquer the galaxy. Our view was certainly very limited, and the potential for each player was boundless. You can see here, this is the Klingon turn 46, and we are just beginning to make contact with the Romulans on our western border. But as we move forward to turn 49, just 3 turns in the future, boom, all of a sudden, the Romulan-Klingon War, the first one, has begun. You can see conflicts happening along this border area right here. We have also met the Gorn, the Romulans, the Carnivon, and as we scroll up, the Hydrons, ISC, and the Remans. Our scope, our scale, our view had grown so much. And yet, now the pressure was building on all sides. And as you can see, if you remember, the tensions were building on the border with the Carnivon, and they were preparing for their next move. But let's slide forward to turn 60, and all of those conflicts have since been resolved. Yes, you can see here the double-barreled border between the Romulans and the Klingons had been established. The first Romulan-Klingon War had come to an end. And of course, the slight border skirmish between the Carnivon and the Klingons had been resolved with a slight indent along their previously straight border line. Things were a little bit more stable. There was a vision of what could happen in the future, and as we scroll up, let me slide my head to the other side, you will see that the map had opened up and we saw everybody on the map. All 10 players were visible, borders were expanding, tensions were high, but the boundless potential of what could happen in the game was at its peak. But after that, we scrolled into turn 95. That is 35 turns later. What do we see here? We see as I slide to the other side, we see the Romulan surprise attack. The second Romulan-Klingon War had begun with a surprise assault from the Romulans, spilling, washing, flooding over the border into Klingon space. Things were looking dire for the Klingons, but far to be outdone. By this point, the Hydrons had been eliminated. The ISC and Remans had dominated and populated former Hydron space. We had seen the fall, as I slide my head again to the other side, we had seen the fall of the Lyran and Federation empires as they had withdrawn from the game, balkanizing this area into smaller, compartmentalized, non-player factions. The Carnivon, the Klingons, the Tholians had all moved in, and the Gorn had all moved into this space, taking up what had previously been the territory of the Lyran and Federation empires. This turn 95, only 8 simple turns from where we are today. Now, as you can see on the Klingon-Romulan border, things have certainly changed. While the bases and the support logistics have been wiped from existence on both the Romulan and Klingon side of this double-barreled boundary, we have now Klingon forces for the first time, as was mentioned in the Galactic News, on the quote-unquote wrong side of that border. As we scroll up, we can see that the Balkans have radically changed hands, with the Tholians dominating, along with their Gorn allies, the former Klingon territory, which was itself the former Federation territory, which between the Tholians and the Gorn, they now completely occupy. The Lyran pocket still exists, but Reman, Gorn, and Carnarvon forces are all primed and positioned to be able to take it out at a moment's notice. So, what is going on? Where are we going? And how are things going to go forward? Well, we will have to see. But if we're going to get started, let's start off with the good and exciting stuff known as EP and fleet cap. Let's populate those right now and bring them to the center of the map. All right, let's zoom in one, see what we can see. All right, you can see now the economics have dramatically changed. Currently, the Carnarvon are at 55.5 EP total. The Gorn catapulting forward into 71 EP. The ISC, this feels like, there we are. The ISC are at 68.5. The Klingons also dropping to 68.5 EP. Formerly the peak of the economic pile, they are now well below the midline. 68.5 for the Klingons. The Remans are at 82.5. The Romulans at 57.5. And the Tholians at 84.5. So Tholians now king of the hill when it comes to the economy, followed shortly by the Remans. Of course, with their Gorn allies, the Tholians and the Gorn now dominate economically, with the Remans and ISC following shortly behind. All right, let's talk about fleet cap and who's got what out in the wild. The Carnarvon, you can see, have 119 ships with a total attack factor of 489, 617 defense. So nothing to sneeze at. The Gorn, very similarly, have 495 total attack factors, but that's spread over 161 ships, giving them 721 defense factors. Certainly the Gorn have gone from being a, shall we say, an amusement to being an intimidating force on the map. The ISC, with 157 ships out and about, are at 600 total attack factors, 765 defense. Still hitting well above their weight, representative of their economy. The Klingons, with a measly 112 ships, down significantly from their former peak, are now at 453 total attack factors, 494 defense. The Remans, still. Oh, the Remans are just by one no longer the king of the hill when it comes to total ship count. They are at 194 total ships, 756 attack factor, 819 defense. Wowzers. That is still pretty impressive. The Romulans, with 76 ships in the field, have 283 total attack factors, 415 defense. The Tholians, now the king of the hill, the rooster of the roost, have 195, the biggest fleet on the map, 195 ships with 577 total attack factors, 905 defense. Will we see in the next coming turns the first player to crack 1,000 with their defense factors? I don't know. It feels like it's coming. We'll see how that goes. My goodness, my gracious, that is crazy. Okay, so that's exciting. That's delighting. Let's take a quick pause as we go back to the chat. Whoop. All right, let me take a quick sip of coffee in case you have forgotten. We here at Star Trek New Worlds are dominated by our caffeine intake. It is how we stay motivated and how we get things going and getting done over here at Star Trek New World. So if you are so inclined and you feel like sending us a burst of caffeine, a momentary support, a a call out, if you will, to that you like and you support what it is that we're doing. You can either be like Jose Valente there and hit the subscribe button and help us get towards that magic number 500. If you want to take a step further than that, you can use your phone, hit that QR code that is between me and the chat, or head over to coffee.com/New Worlds, as you can see in the link down there below. And if you decide to send a one-time $5 coffee donation or any of the other tiers that are there, you will see a disruptor bolt fire across the screen with that little sound, and that will indicate that we are moving our way towards our 3 coffee goal for today's live stream. As we go forward, you'll see a bar down there below slowly move across with a green color to our goal of 3. But shall we get there? Shall we even see one single coffee fired today? Ooh. Only time will tell. In the meantime, I'm going to take a quick sip of my caffeinated goodness here and get me so motivated. Oh, yeah. All right, so what do I got here on the chat? I see Bill, Tony, you beautiful bastard. Yes. Oh, Devin Dean, you can't be petty. Dale Davis is in the house. Hey, yo. Paul has arrived. And, oh, hey. Good to see those Romulans are doing so well. Yayo! Well, we'll see how that goes. All right. Let's jump into the exciting and delighting things that are going on in the map and how things are moving forward when it comes to our conquering of the galaxy. All right. So as we were mentioning before, let's start with the Lyran pocket. Okay. So as we have mentioned in the summary, the quick, ever so brief recap of where we've been and where we're going, we can see here this is the Lyran pocket. On the right, you have the Reman Empire, or the Crystal ships of the Romulan faction, if you're a classic SFB or FNE folk. So here we have the Reman Empire making their way into or around the Lyran pocket, keeping in mind that the Remans are the second largest, only by one, navy in the game, and they are probably one of the best situated to be able to make significant gains in this particular dynamic. On the left, in the green, you have the Carnivons, who, being able to supply forces and, of course, supply through that Kilo wormhole, K, they are able to reach out into this Balkan space and threaten and or potentially grab the Lyran pocket. And below, we have the Gorn. The Gorn are coming through this AA wormhole, this double alpha wormhole, up to here in Whiskey 12. All of these forces are within striking distance of the Lyran homeworld. And you might be wondering, well, they're a non-player faction. That's no big deal. They'll pop them. No harm, no foul. Gonna sneeze? Excuse me. All right, so what's going on with the Lyran capital, and why should any of these players be worried about trying to take this spot? Okay, so let's look at, first of all, the Lyran capital. What do we have? We have 3 planets. We have the home planet, we have a minor planet, and we have a colony. Those are the iconography here. What does that mean? Home planets provide you with 10 economic points. Minor planets provide you with 3, and colonies provide you with 1. As you hit the Happy Plus on any particular planet, they give you a little bit of a boost. In the case of the homeworld, it'll give you a, I'll have to check, I think it's 2 points, 2-point bonus, which means this would be a total 12 points of economy, and of course 3 and 1. Now, what kind of fleet do they have here, and what kind of defenses do they have in place? You can see on every planet they have a YDK, which is significant because it's their ability to repair ships and sort of get things back into the fight. Each of these YDKs, of course, has EW and 4 SIDs with 4 points per SID, with a total of 16 defense factors. You'll also notice that they have a combination of either PGBs and or YPGBs. So what's the difference? PGBs are the M or modern era or middle era version, the upgraded version of the Y era PGB. The Y W and Y are the first two milestones of technology in this game. We call them the early era. So they are the sort of first draft or introductory technology of that particular thing, whatever it is. So you can see the planetary ground base, or PGB, the Y early era PGB. There's 1 attack, 2 defense per PGB. You can see there's a total of 6 here, 6 attack, 12 defense. So we've got a total of 6 of these guys right here. When you upgrade them, which you can do once you get the PGB technology, PGBs then are a 3 attack, 3 defense unit. You can see that there are 10 PGBs here on this planet. So a combination of 6 Y PGBs, 10 middle era PGBs, with a total of 36 attack and 42 defense just on the planetary ground bases. Important thing to note that each of these planetary ground bases exercises or emits 1 point of EW, and so there is no limit to how many of these guys that can be in any particular fight or battle line as they are stationary on the planet, but it's important to note that they can have a significant EW effect on any particular fight. As we go down here, we can see that there are a total of 6 PGBs. Remember, 3 points of attack, 3 points of defense per PGB, so 18 divided by 3. So we've got 6 of these here plus a YDK, and then of course we have 2 of these here and the YDK. That's a lot of EW. That's a lot of potential difference that can impact the fight. In addition to that, we have the fleet. We have a couple of Y airships, holdovers from their previous generation, a heavy dreadnought, which is a 6 attack, 8 defense ship, a Y command cruiser, and 2 Y era cruisers. So 4 6s and 3 6s respectively. But that's not all. They have a boatload of M era ships as well. They have 2 CLMs, or light cruisers of the middle era. They have 4 DDs and 5 frigates, all of the M era. Taking a note of their attack and defense factors, the destroyers essentially are as effective as the cruisers, just depending on your perspective, whether it's 3-6 or 4-5 or 4-6 or 4-5, very, very similar. And of course, on top of all those things, they also have a YDG. This is a Y era destroyer with a G factor, or ground assault destroyer. It has a kind of a marine unit that you can use to ground assault bases, and this is just a way to be able to work down ground bases when you're doing a planetary assault. Very advantageous if you can have them. Otherwise, you just got to blow them away from orbit, which is more challenging to do, certainly. All right, so that's the Lyran pocket, and that's what's going on here. But what is surrounding the Lyran pocket? Well, the Gorn, because of Hammer and Mobile Fleet, let's take a look here. The Gorn have a boatload of business here. Let's slide this over. So we know that we have Hammer Fleet and Mobile Fleet here. So Mobile Fleet is the top. We have a total of 4 cruisers and 5 light cruisers, 13 destroyers, all those M. Then we have 3 Y era destroyers, a scout, and a prime team. With Hammer Fleet, we have an additional 2 cruisers. Excuse me, 4 cruisers. Let's just put those all together. 4 cruisers, a light cruiser, a total of 14 destroyers, and a scout and a prime team. So we have, what is that? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, a coffee has been fired by Dale. Thank you, my Reman brother. Oh, I can feel that coffee, the caffeine coursing through my veins, driving that energy. Oh, feel the pump. I was just watching the Arnold documentary. Pump it up, baby. Here we go. All right. Let's take a look here. So we've got a total of 14 plus the 13 destroyers. That is 27 destroyers. And if you include the YDDs, that's 30 destroyers alone. The cruisers, they've got 8 of them. Light cruisers, 6 of them. Man, that is a ridiculous amount of ships. And certainly if the Gorn want to like poke into the Lyran pocket, I don't see them being stopped in any way. But they are by far not the only faction ready to drop the hammer. Let's take a look at the coffee delivering inspired Triton fleet. Boom, boom, boom. Oh my goodness. Okay, so there's Triton right here and then Pegasus below. We'll pull up the Pegasus fleet as well. Pegasus. Where are you, my friend? Boom. There we are. Whoop. All right. So here you can see we have a total of 10. Not 1, not 5, not 8, but 10 maulers. That's what these are. KRMMs. So the KRM is the Crestal Mauler in the Middle Era. It is a 10 attack, 9 defense ship. The importance of a Mauler is that it can direct damage at 1-to-1 on ships, and anything in formation bonus with 3-to-1, it goes 2-to-1. So they can generate a lot of damage. Now, with Maulers, you can only have a certain number of them in your fleet because they need at least 2 escorts to accompany them to allow them to use their total attack potential. So he's got more than enough here. 3 of those ships, plus he's got KRMs, which are essentially the D7 variant. They have 6 attack, 7 defense. We've got a couple of Y-era ships left over from. We've got a command cruiser here, the KD4C, KD4 plus, all of these 4-6s. So combined, that is 5 4-6 ships. We have the K4 plus, which is a 3-4 ship. That's basically their destroyer. And then we have K4Ms, which are the middle era or the next generation of destroyer, and they are a 4-3. K4Ms, excuse me, the K4M is actually like the E4M with the Klingons. It is their superpowered frigate. So it's a 4-3 for them. The K4, slightly confusing. The KF4, excuse me, is the destroyer from the Y era. And then, of course, we got a tug, the KRT, a couple of KE2s, 2 pluses. Those are the Y era frigates. And then an admiral. So the admiral, what does that do? It is a special unit in the game that allows a player to increase the command factor in a fleet by 1. So normally ships, depending on the ships, have a command factor associated with them. For example, most cruisers have a command factor of 8. What does that mean? That means they can control 8 ships above and beyond themselves. So you can have a total of 9 ships, including the command ship, in an attack formation, or how many points are being allocated to cause damage in any one particular battle round. Dreadnoughts, by example, have a command factor of 10. There are other ships that have a command factor of 10, 10 being the highest. Command ships like the KD4C have a command factor of 9. And all that means is that when you take an admiral, you give a +1 to that command factor, meaning you can, for example, if you had a 10 command ship in a fleet, then you can have 10 plus that ship, +1 because of the admiral, and away you go. There are some advanced rules about whether those admirals are good ones or bad ones, and how it's like +1, +2, or -1, -2. But we're not using those here today. Basically, if you have an admiral, it gives you a +1. All right, and then there's Pegasus fleet, which is just a little bit further south here, again, on a YDK. Oh yeah, I should add, these are both YDKs, which means they can attack, retrograde back to those bases, and repair for good times in the future. So we've got 2 K7 RM. So excuse me, the KRM is more like the D6, the D6M, which is the Klingon early era cruiser in the middle era. And then the D7 is a slightly beefier version. Instead of the 6-7, it is a straight 7 here for the Remans. The KRMM, of course, there's 2 maulers there. And then, of course, we have a bunch of K5Ms, which are like the F5 in the Klingon parlance. So those are, looks like, what are these? 15, 12. So that's 5 attack, 4 defense. Not bad. And then, of course, K4Ms, which are those super frigates that we were talking about before. So they've got 9 of those. They've got K5, 6 of those, and then 2 maulers and 2 K7 cruisers. That's nothing to sneeze at. So all of that combined, if they were to go toe-to-toe with the Gorn, by example, let's say both of them arrive on the Lyran capital at the same time, that would be quite the tussle based on the number of ships that the Remans can bring and what their capabilities are, i.e. directed damage, versus the Gorn ships. They just have a ton of them. Yeah, it'd be a very interesting battle. And of course, either one of these fleets could wipe the floor with the Lyran pocket, I think. Certainly taking some damage along the way, but yeah, we'll see. But far to be outdone by these 2 juggernauts, positioning, posturing, getting ready for a pounding on the Lyran capital. We have the Carnivon. And of course, they were Carnivon. So the Carnivon have on this, we have Topaz and Emerald fleet. These aren't nothing fleets. So let's take a look. We have a couple of Y-era factions or Y-era assets here. We have a Y-era DN, which is a straight Carnivon ship. From their previous engagement and alliance with the Hydrons, they have a Hydron YDN as well. They have some other Y-era ships here, as well as a CC, a CA, a bunch of drone bombardment cruisers, which for the Carnivon is sort of a unique, at the moment anyway, a unique feature that they have in the sense that they can launch bombardment, basically like missile bombardment on a target. They have a total of 5 of those and a light cruiser. But the M-era ships, mostly in Topaz fleet, we have a cruiser, 4 light cruisers, 3 cruisers, because of course, why are they separated? There we go. So 3 cruisers, a total of 4 light cruisers. We have 13 frigates and a scout. Now, you may notice on the Carnivon units, they have the N. What does that mean? The N is called a heel nipper, and it is, for all intents and purposes, a 1-point directed damage weapon like a Mauler. So a Mauler can direct damage. In the case of the Remans, they have that 10-9 unit. 10 points of the total damage that they generate can be directed at a single target. And if they have more than one Mauler, then more than that. But they can direct that damage to a single target. Heel nippers are cumulative, meaning that if you had 10 ships, each with an N, out of all the damage you generate, you can deliver 10 of those points as directed damage against the target. There are some constraints around it in the sense that you have to have a minimum BIR to be able to execute it. Why? Because the battle intensity rating, you have to get nice and close and personal to be able to execute the heel nipper from a tactical level. So that's why the BIR has to be high. But other than the BIR requirement, of course, ships that are capable of a heel nipper in the formation, that capability can be extremely effective in a fight. So interesting to note that we have 2 factions with Mauler-like abilities, and then, of course, the Gorn. Now, the Gorn are probably the most, they have the most number of ships in this little collection, with the Carnivon having arguably the least. Still, they have quite a few ships. It's not like they have nothing. But what do we have in Ruby Fleet? Now, Carnivon Ruby Fleet, oh, that's nothing. That's just 2 light cruisers, no big deal. So, based on the collection of ships in this little pocket here, what do you think? We have the Gorn with just more ships than anybody else. We have the Remans with arguably the greatest firepower potential in any one battle line. And then, of course, the Carnivons, who are certainly not just going to sit by and let all these guys have at it with the Lyrans. So which one do you think is going to make a move? Why do you think they will or won't be successful? Will the other ones just pound or jump on the first mover after they've wasted themselves trying to take the Lyran capital? I don't know. It's kind of a weird standoffish kind of moment. Is everyone going to be gun shy? Is someone going to make a first move? How is that going to shake down? I don't know. Well, we will have to see. I see more than a little bit of chitter chatter in the chat, so let's slide on over there and pick up where the chat left off. All right, so let's see here. So a little chatter back and forth. Dale saying, just shared your channel with 2 of my high school friends. We started playing back in 1985-86 in Germany. Right on. Excellent. Some of you may know Andy Palmer. I don't know, but maybe some of these other guys do. Bill knows your sneaky Tholian partner. All right. So Dale says, I used to play Romulans almost exclusively. Loved the modular ships. I have less time these days. I do look forward to playing a call to arms Starfleet, as it takes much less time. So true. That's one thing about this game, is that it just takes so long to play. We've been playing this particular campaign now since, well, it's well over a year. I think we're a year and a half at this point for this particular campaign. We started this campaign technically in the tail end of November in 2020. No, 21. So, but we've certainly been longer than a year. We're coming up on a year and a half for this campaign alone. Isn't that crazy? That's one of the challenges or sort of the constraints with turn-based strategy games. But something to think about is, like, so this game, obviously, turn-based strategy, but one of the things we include in it is this role-playing component, this chatter back and forth, the interaction between players. And it's very social in that context. We have a Discord server. If you haven't already had a chance to check it out, then you can join it over at the coffee.com New Worlds link. You can head over there and check that out. But if you participate in our Discord channel, there's witty banter that goes back and forth. Certainly some saltiness that goes back and forth about what people are doing and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, we're building this community, this social interaction, granted online, not in person like many of us are used to. But we're going back and forth and we're doing this interaction to try and create, in the context of the role-playing aspect, some color, some depth, some narrative to what it is that we're doing. And that brings out the excitement, the fun of it, as instead of just a straight up war game. So whereas Vassal does have the capability to do sort of these quick turnarounds, sort of doing it in real time, because of our different time zones, literally we have folks in Australia, the UK, across North America. Because of all these different time zones, we have to sort of have a time delay or give us space and time to be able to respond to communications back and forth, and even just be able to logistically get the turn in, because it isn't always just the easiest thing in the world. So all that to say, it takes a while to play these games. But one of the interesting things I've observed, and certainly we've seen other players mention this, if we have a certain cadence, let's say right now our weekly cadence is a week. That's our time box. We make sure that we deliver turns in that time frame as reasonably as possible. That creates enough anticipation that players, once they play, develop this strong desire to see the next turn. Because you have to wait for it, the anticipation builds, and the payoff, once you get it, is greater. We've seen this with other players, and those folks on the Discord channel know who we're talking about, but we have folks that are just salivating, waiting for the next turn. That anticipation, that delayed gratification, that joy once you get it back and you see what's happened, it creates a sense of engagement and excitement that a lot of sort of quick, immediate feedback kind of games don't. So all that to say, yes, it takes a long time, but I would argue it's worth it. And the time commitment for this isn't that big. You can effectively play this game with spending like maybe half an hour or an hour a week on it. Maybe. If that much. Certainly in the early part of the game, when your empire is small and so on, it's a lot quicker than that. But once you get into sort of this late stage of the game where we have all these various battles going on, as a player, you can maybe spend an hour doing your turn if you want, and that's all you need. That being said, because people get so sort of sucked into it, it can be a game that takes way more than an hour if you let it. But that's up to you and how you like to play the game. So I see lots of chitter chatter here. Paul says, I'm drafting a reply to Tholians he is not going to like, but he reminds me of the Hydran Empire too much. Yeah, okay. We know how that went. As in, I don't see a Hydran player today. Or at least a Hydran faction, I should say. We are mostly one turn a week right now. That can stretch a bit, but there are lots of battle turns. Yes, right now the battles are intense. There's many of them, and that's the biggest constraint right now is processing battles. Link for Discord, Dale says. Dale, if you want to head over to our Discord server, then you can head to coffee.com, and the third tier there gets you access to the Discord server. Of course, if you're a player in a game, you get into the Discord server as well. But Dale, if you want to join us, head over to coffee.com/New Worlds, and you can jump in and join our Discord server. The reason why the Discord or the coffee connection, it'll automatically prompt you and give you a link to be able to do that. So it's sort of seamless. So easy to do. When we start a new game, we put out an open call on the channel for new players. I used to play a lot of diplomacy, and there's a lot of similarity between diplomacy and this. Obviously, different game. Boom! Ladies and gentlemen, Reman MC has fired coffee. Let me take a quick swig to celebrate a little MC action. Hoorah! All right. Okay. So, right. So let's talk about that real quick. And then I'll jump back into the map. When we talk about this game, and we've had sort of some fits and starts when it comes to this game. So if you've been playing this or if you've been watching this for a while, you've seen us announce other campaigns and things like that and sort of plans in the background. To be fair, to be fully honest and transparent, some of those games have not worked out the way we initially thought they were going to work out as far as when they would start, how they've been working out, and so on and so forth. But that's okay. We're not perfect, and we're just trying to do the best that we can with what we got. Right now, obviously, Star Trek New Worlds is the campaign that you see here. It is the sort of tried and true. This is the one that is working, that everything is moving forward on. We have other individuals who have other campaigns that they've been working on, currently trying to deliver and so on, but it's a work in progress. So once this campaign ends and this GM has a moment to take a breath, then we'll be looking to start up a new campaign. What that looks like, when that happens, it will depend on how this game ends. And when that ends, I am guesstimating that might be by the end of the summer, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Who knows? We can get another whole year out of this campaign, maybe. But whenever this campaign does end, then we'll have a point where we will make a call out to start up a new campaign and get new players in. We are currently going to, once this campaign is done, have a discussion about what worked, what didn't work, how can we improve things, and how can we, I think, standardize things to make it the most universal and pleasurable play experience for all the players involved. Because at the end of the day, we do this to have fun, not to, shall we say, we do this to have fun, basically. So if we do this to have fun, how can we increase that fun and reduce the suck, so to speak, in all the other aspects of the game? So we'll figure that out, and we'll work that going forward. But yes, if you want to participate in a future campaign, just follow us along here, and we will eventually get new games up and going once we have more GMs, more players, and more opportunity to be able to get this forward. I will say this. If you are so inclined to be able to run a Federation and Empire game, please do not hesitate to reach out and try and connect, because we are always looking for more people who feel that they can and are capable of running campaigns. The more campaigns we run, the more players can play, the more fun we have, and the bigger this community becomes. And that, at the end of the day, is kind of why we do this. All right, so let's dive back into the map and talk about what is going on in the other side of the Balkans. Okay, so in the top corner there, right over there, you can see that the Gorn with Fifth Fleet have dominated the former Terran or Sol Confederacy. We have the Tholians dominating this little pocket here. I'll take away the ships real quick so you can see planet, colony, 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 Sol system. I expect the Gorn will probably polish up and or take these other straggling resources when they have the opportunity. But you can see here that the Tholians are positioned, and certainly the Gorn are as well, to be able to try and tackle the Tango wormhole. The Tango wormhole is still where the Klingons have their last sort of bastion of resistance. But if you will take a look, here we have Strike Fleet, Gorn Strike Fleet. Let's just take a look at what Strike Fleet, here we are. So Strike Fleet has a YDN, basically a whole bunch of Y ships. YDN, 2 YCCs, a CL5 DDs, a frigate, and a prime team. Nothing, I don't think that fleet will necessarily destroy or take the YDK, although it will certainly be a tough fight. But really, it's all about Tholian First Fleet. Let's take a look at Tholian First Fleet. Booyah. Look at that. We've got a total of 6 M-era cruisers. We have 8 M-era destroyers. We have, oh my God, 25 patrol craft. Now, granted, the patrol craft do not have a great offensive firepower. They only got 2 attack, but there's a ton of them, and there's 25 of them there, and plus they got a scout. So knowing that the Gorn and the Tholians are aligned, they can certainly combine their forces to cause a little bit of a tussle, and it will make things very interesting. We also have the first garrison, just for S&Gs. Let's take a look. First garrison is a single M-era cruiser, 4 destroyers, and a total of 4 patrol craft. I think that's more of a gatekeeping force right there, just to kind of back up the Gorn, maybe prevent the Klingons from reaching out and stomping them. Perhaps, I'm not sure, but either way, that's what's going on there. It's very exciting and delighting, shall we say? All of this in the with the backdrop that the Tholians, for the entirety of this game, have, for all intents and purposes, not engaged in any hostilities or active wars with anybody. They have very, very slowly, very carefully, very conservatively expanded throughout the game. They have been very consistent and steady in their growth. They have always been one of the more significant economies in the game, and until very recently, they have been one of the smallest and least threatening military forces because of the nature of their ships. But now, they have the most number of ships. Their total defense factors are the highest, and their combat capability is nothing to sneeze at. So, we have a little visitor from the ISC and the Remans. We've seen a number of interesting dynamics, one of which has been the Tholians, the Gorn, and the Romulans, for all intents and purposes, collectively assaulting the Klingons. Now, the Four Powers Alliance, if you've been following, you know that is the Carnarvon, ISC, Reman, and Klingon factions, have all been working together to try and stem this tide. The Carnarvons, as we've mentioned before, have worked to secure the wormhole that we'll see here in a moment that opens, or one of the ends of that wormhole is right on their capital system. So they are motivated to secure the other side of the wormhole, which previously was in Romulan territory, now in a neutral zone. The ISC and the Remans, of course, seeing this sort of dogpile on the Klingons, have come to the assistance of their ally to a certain degree, and have engaged the Tholians in conflict. Now, the ISC and the Remans are 2 of the strongest militaries in the game. But the biggest constraint that they have is access to the Tholians. They have this wormhole here, which is the W or whiskey wormhole. They have this wormhole down here, which is the November or N wormhole. And these 2 wormholes are both wormholes that have, as we look over on the other side here, we have this right here is where the whiskey wormhole is, and then this down here is where the November wormhole is. So you can see that the 2 wormholes are accessible from both the Reman and the ISC, and they have forces that can go through those wormholes and be able to do something on the other side. Until very recently, there has been a bit of a standoff with bases, like you can see here on the November wormhole, set up by the Tholians to guard against anybody coming through. But as you can see, they have redistributed their forces to be able to perhaps impede, slow down, simmer down the excitement from the ISC and the Remans. Interesting to note here, the Remans in this positioning, or sorry, the ISC and the Remans on this positioning, is that they have some ability to be able to connect or tie into some of the other allies that they have. The Remans, of course, up in this area here, if they were to so choose, could come down. There is also the Carnarvons, which are down here in this area, and so they could work their way down and connect with the Carnarvons. There's all sorts of options, but of course, at this moment, right now, this is an island, a beachhead, a isolated vector of attack, which is easier for the Tholians to defend. It is easier for the Tholians to defend that single vector of attack, but there's so much stuff here. If you've seen the post in the community tab, go check it out. I literally separated all the ships and laid it out on the picture of what you could see there, it's pretty crazy how much on either side is ganged up. To give you an example, the Tholian second fleet, look at this. Look at this. Total of 11 cruisers, 34 destroyers, patrol craft 37, and then of course 2 scouts. That's a lot of ships. However, ship to ship number count, the Tholians, or sorry, the ISC and the Reman have as many. So ship to ship, as far as a pinning perspective in this game, a single hull can pin or prevent another single hull from moving beyond that hex. They basically are balanced on ship numbers. They can pin each other, but the offensive firepower that they bring, that's the difference. I would argue the ISC have a much higher per ship combat potential when their attack and defense factors are brought into consideration, whereas the Tholians do not. The question about the Tholians, though, is that the Tholians have a special ability known as the pinwheel. 2 things about the pinwheel. 1, when you create the pinwheel, it increases the collective defense factor of the 3 ships that are pinwheel capable combined to form the pinwheel. It increases their collective defense factor by 50%. And if 1 battle round is completed with a pinwheel remaining intact, then they form a Tholian web, which for all intents and purposes, you've probably seen that on TOS and various other things. The Tholian web, effectively what it does is it prevents any ships that are in the battle line from being withdrawn or swapped out for, let's say, other ships. It is normally routine for many of us, once a ship is crippled, to pull it out of the battle line and replace it with a non-crippled ship of a similar class. But when a web is in effect, you can't pull ships out of a battle line. You can only add ships to it. So it's an interesting dynamic. It basically forces you to burn ships in a combat, which may not be desirable depending on the opponent. So all that to say, the ISC and the Remans are poking the bear, and the bear is certainly responding. And of course, last thing to think about, with the big fleet that's up here potentially threatening the Klingons, if they go through that Tango wormhole, that could potentially cause big problems for the Klingons when they get through on the other side. What does this do? Because while the Tholians have a lot of ships, their per ship combat potential is smaller or less than the ISC and the Remans. And so the balance is, if you're going to throw a bunch of your ships in one direction, are you going to need those ships in another combat? And that's the sort of the dilemma that's being placed upon the Tholians at the moment. They have basically 2 pillars of strength, which is First Fleet and Second Fleet. Where are they going to distribute the majority of their forces? Will Second Fleet be enough? Maybe, maybe not. Will First Fleet need to redirect some of its forces to deal with the ISC and the Remans? Maybe. What is that going to look like as we go forward? We'll have to see, but it's a very interesting choice that's being forced upon the Tholians right now. Let's go to the Gorn and check them out. So the Gorn, of course, as we mentioned before, they're taking over aspects of the Balkans, which are increasing their economy significantly. A couple big things here. Of course, we mentioned that they have a big fleet babysitting the big fleet that is sitting here on the wormhole. The Carnarvon home fleet, which is the big fleet we're talking about, is not small. Wow. That is a total of 8 cruisers, again with the heel nippers. A couple of command cruisers here, 3 of those. So there's 8 and 3, that's 11 of those heel nipper ships. You also have 4 dreadnoughts, the dreadnoughts being certainly combat capable, but with a 5.8, they're nothing compared to the 8.9 of a CC or a 7.8 of a CA. But they have a 10 command factor, so that's good. Then we have the light cruisers with 5.6. We have still a bunch of drone bombardment ships, which are very capable. We have a bunch of these modern era or middle era DDs, and then of course a total of 13 frigates and a couple scouts. So there's more than enough here to cause a big issue for the Gorn. But the Gorn home and vengeance fleet, so let's take a quick look at Gorn home fleet. Not much there. 6 destroyers, a scout, a light cruiser, and a heavy cruiser, but it's Vengeance Fleet, I betcha, that's got the big guns. Vengeance Fleet being, oh, interesting. Vengeance Fleet has 1 cruiser and a total of 27 destroyers. Now, that's a lot of destroyers, don't get me wrong. But when, again, we're balancing out the total attack factor of one ship versus another, the total command factors of, or sorry, the total attack factors of the Carnarvon trump the Gorn, certainly in this context. The Gorn basically have the majority of their forces in and around the Lyran pocket. A lot of them, but yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how this goes. We've also got one little sort of interesting tweak to the story, which is in this corner over here, we have a Juggernaut starbase with a bunch of ships. The Juggernauts, for those of you who are following at home, are an NPC in this game run by the GM, a super technological AI faction with ships that dwarf all of ours, will beat the snot out of us, and they seem to have these bases in the corners of each of the map, as well as populating the center. So this, by example, is a full starbase with 36 attack and defense. You can see that it's got a frigate guarding it, as well as these other auxiliary vessels, which have been slowly coming into our various areas of space with ever increasing degrees of frequency. So yeah, that's it's an exciting and delighting little thing there. I don't know that it's going to necessarily threaten the Gorn, but the Gorn have 8th and 2nd Fleet there just saying hi. 2nd and 8th, as you can see, not necessarily the biggest fleets in the world and not enough to take out that starbase, but 5 destroyers, a light cruiser, 2 cruisers, and an exploration ship. Yeah, not enough to be able to do anything about it, but certainly enough to be able to see it and know that it's there. Well, let's talk about my favorite guys, the Romulans. All right, we'll talk about the Romulans and the Klingons, and then we'll come back to the chat real quick. All right, not much to say here for all intents and purposes, but let's just talk about the void. When we take away the ships, we look at bases. Bases provide supply. So when we look at the supply for the Romulans and we set the supply at 5, this is their reach. Anything with red on it is where their ships have supply based on their fixed supply points. Those are planets and bases that are providing fixed supply. This does not include tugs providing extended supply. This is just about the bases. So as you can see here, there is a void of bases in this pocket here, and as a result, a void of supply for where certain ships are. If you bring the ships back, it's very interesting to note that the void of supply is right where these ships are located. Just saying. That's on purpose. So these ships are in position to be able to take advantage of that, meaning that the Romulans need extended supply to be able to provide supply to the ships that attack these vessels here. They have a tug here. The YFB is a potential extended supply point. You also have a YFB up here. Both of those tugs can provide extended supply to this area, and so that's good. That allows them to be able to essentially attack and potentially retrograde. But if we go back, when we take away the ships, there are no points to retrograde to. Well, with the exception of maybe their homeworld. So they have 6 movement for M-era ships. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So they are within retrograde movement of the homeworld. But as you can see, that's pretty much it. There aren't any, or there aren't many other supply points that they can use for retrograde movement. And that's a real advantage up until now, because in the Klingon space, when we look at that, and I'll switch my head to the other side here. When we look at Klingon space, the Klingons have had these planets, which have been these, it's been an advantage and a disadvantage. It has been advantageous for the Romulans when they attack the Klingons to be able to take those and use them as logistical points to be able to attack and further deep strike the Klingons. The Klingons don't have that same advantage the other way around. the Klingons are having a challenge providing supply to get into Romulan space. That is one of the biggest advantages that the Romulans have, sort of from the topography or the map perspective. So that is a challenge and a weakness, you might say, for the Klingons. But on the other hand, once you've destroyed their logistical infrastructure, which the Romulans were extremely good at doing in their surprise attack, once the Klingons take back those planets, which has happened, now they have the reach to push the Romulans back, which is what we're seeing now. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, but at this point, the advantage to the Romulans is that it is preventing the Klingons from hop-skipping a deep strike attack into Romulan territory, the way that the Romulans did to the Klingons, but it is also now posing a bit of a constraint in the Romulans' ability to coalesce and direct forces against the Klingons, which is, like I say, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. There is certainly one spot where they can coalesce forces, and that's their homeworld, because once, like I mentioned, within 6 hexes, they can attack and then retrograde to the homeworld. So the homeworld becomes this sort of last stand potential location. But we'll have to see how this goes, because is that where the Klingons are going to strike? I mentioned in a community post, and we're just making use of the community tab, what do you think the Klingons should do? If we bring the ships back, you can see, and I'll get rid of the supply menu so that you're not staring at a sea of red. If you look, you can see that the Romulans, or that the Klingons, within their 6 movement, could go check out this Yankee wormhole, which no one has transited. The Victor wormhole, which is on the other side of it, the Gorn. You've got a couple of these bases that are just kind of sitting here totally undefended. There is this planet over here, Fredonia, which is within reach of a couple of within reach of some ships. You've got bases. Let me take away the ships again. You got bases up here that could be attacked and dealt with. One of the things that the Romulans were extremely good at when they attacked the Klingons was spreading out their forces and causing as much damage and havoc, and then bringing it back to be able to focus their attack on a homeworld assault, which they did twice. So now the question is, how is this going to play on the Klingon side? Are the Klingons going to do the same strategy against the Klingons? Broad attacks and cause as much damage and havoc that they can? That could cause some significant headaches for the Romulans, potentially cutting off access to resources and their total economy overall. Is it going to be a homeworld assault, which would be certainly a pivotal battle? And I think regardless of what happens, the Romulans and the Klingons would destroy their entire sort of main attack capability in doing that, whether it was the Romulans losing and then, of course, the homeworld being taken, or the Klingons just kind of spending all their resources trying to assault the homeworld. It's sort of like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. One way or the other, it's going to, that's sort of how it's going to work. It'll be very interesting to see how that goes. And then, of course, you could go through the wormhole, and because we don't know where that wormhole goes, if we send a ship through it, by example, then it could provide an interesting opportunity. Would the Yankee wormhole show up somewhere else? Like, for example, let's say we go through the Yankee wormhole and it shows up somewhere in Klingon space. That could provide 2 things. One, another vector of attack from the Romulans attacking the Klingons, or vice versa, the Klingons attacking the Romulans. What if it shows up in Reman or ISC space? All of a sudden, those guys could get involved. What if it shows up in Tholian space? Well, okay, maybe the Tholians come through and help out the Romulans. There's all sorts of weird options that could happen there. Just depends on what that looks like. And of course, the Romulans up until now, from a role-playing perspective, have been very anti-wormhole. Ironically, they have the most number of gravity wells and wormholes in their space, a random event that populates these hexes, but they haven't gone through them, which has kept them very stable, secure, insulated from potential outsider interference. So it's a very interesting sort of dynamic. So many options, so many options. Okay, let's take a quick look at the Klingons, and then we will slide into the chat once again. Okay, so you can see we've got a orb the monster has been identified as an orb. Basically, what that means, it has a 9 attack, 9 defense. It has the ability to increase the battle intensity rating by 1, and it has there's no EW effect on it. EW has 0 impact on it one way or the other. So that just means that the orb is a jerk to deal with. As you can see, there's quite a few ships crippled and scattered, if I take this away, at various bases. One of the things, sort of the advantages that the Klingons have, is that many of their ships at this time, specifically the E4 and the F5, by example, they're destroying their frigate. Those ships are super cheap to repair. They're cheap to build, cheap to repair. You can build a lot of them, and it doesn't take a lot of money to repair them. In this game, when you repair ships at a base, so a YDK or YBS, it's half an economic point per 1 point of damage. Those ships, the F5 and the E4M, are 1 point repairs. When you compare that to most of the Romulan ships, which are 2 point repair ships, that means 2 things. One, it costs as much for me to repair 2 of my ships as Romulans for 1. And from a capacity perspective, for the same number of bases for repairing, I can repair twice as many ships. The exception is that the Romulans have a fantastic ship called the Battlehawk, which you can see right here. The Battlehawk is a 4/5 ship, just the same as their SNMB or SMBM, excuse me, the Snipe version B. The Snipe version B is a 4/5 ship, but it's a 2 point repair. The Battlehawk, if you see it here, it flips to a 3 and repairs. Oh, my mistake. I thought it was a 1 point repair. The Battlehawk is a great ship. It's certainly cheap to repair, but it's a 2 point repair. Oh, there we go. So Battlehawks, 2 point repair. Snipe Bs or SMS, Sierra November Bravo M. There we are. Like these guys right here. 4/5s, they're also a 2 point repair. The Snipe Alpha, we'll call it, the Snipe M, also a 2 point repair. So what we're seeing here is that it costs more for the Romulans to repair their crippled ships than it costs the Klingons to do the same. In a war of attrition, that tends to favor the Klingons, assuming they have the capacity to repair, which the Romulans were really good at destroying and eliminating. We had a whole bunch of YDKs forward deployed to be able to deal with the Romulans, and the Romulans were incredibly effective at rolling in and wiping those out. God, that was annoying. But they did it, and they were very effective. So, booyah. Congrats to the Roms. I have nothing but praise. Dave, his name's Dave, who is the Romulan player. Nothing but praise for Dave. He has been extremely effective, efficient, just incredibly impressed. Dave is a first-time player in this game, and his learning curve has been so... The degree to which he has improved over the course of the game has been so dramatic, and he's been so good at it. Like I am very much looking forward to facing off against him in the next game, if and when that happens, because he is going to be so good at this game. It's just very impressive, very, very impressive. And I will say, while this game has quite a robust rule set, it doesn't take long to get good at it, as long as you have you're able and willing to learn the rules, which they're not complicated to learn. There's just lots of them. And if you sort of are able to apply simple principles and tactics, it can be really effective really fast. So, like I say, nothing but praise for the Romulans. Okay, let's take a quick look at the chat and see where we're at. Booyah! So Coffee was fired back by the Reman MC Reamface. Hoorah! Booyah! I'm going to take another sip because my throat's getting a little dry, and we got to wet that whistle with that sweet elixir of caffeinated goodness. Oh yeah. Okay. Bill says, to all watching today, Tony does not like to mention he he has attacked friends and allies. So we had nothing we could do and seek recompense. Yeah. 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 So as you may for anyone who's followed this game, you know how aggressive the Klingons have been, and they certainly have been aggressive. However, I would argue that there is a little rose-colored glasses going on with Bill's interpretation of events, and Bill is the Gorn, is certainly he has his interpretation of how things go, and he's very morally flexible when he needs to be, shall we say. More ships at C-42 joining 8th Fleet for a hot time. Whoa! Hot time. Hoota. Del showing his vampire ways. Del, wild man, what's down, Charlie Brown, says Bill. All right, let's dive back into the map and quickly get our way into the Carnarvon ISC and top out with the Remans, showing what we got going on this map. Here we go. All right, so here we are on the edge of space with the Carnarvon. Notice this this little blue guy down here. This temporal anomaly is a advanced ship from the future. It is a Borak faction ship, hence the Batman logo, the yellow bat on the blue background. It used to be yellow and black, so I used to call them the Batman faction. But yellow and blue still works too, with depending on your version of Batman. The gray and blue costume I'm thinking of. So you can see that you've got the temporal anomaly with a 2/6. It looks like a scout of some type. And I'll have to look at the rules. I can't remember what a 1P means. I feel like it's a pseudo fighter, but I'll have to check it out. In the rules, it lays out what that is. I'll have to check that out and see what it is. We have Wolfpack here. The Carnarvon Wolfpack. Boom, boom, boom. Wolfpack. Wolfpack 1 has a cruiser, 2 light cruisers, 2 drone bombardment cruisers, 2 frigates, and a scout ready to rock and roll. Looks like they're going to take out this bad boy here, probably retrograde either back to the homeworld. Can they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, they can retrograde back to the homeworld for repair, and of course defense through the wormhole. That's what I'm talking about. In case the Gorn decide to get feisty, and so on and so forth. We've also got on the far right here a Kzinti faction, which is a non-player faction with a minor planet. The Olympus fleet. Let's take a quick look at the Kzinti. There we are. Kzinti Olympus fleet. Olympus. There we are. So Olympus fleet has, as we can see here. Oh, I didn't show you the. There we are. That's the Wolfpack down here. Sorry, I didn't realize my face was covering it. CA, 2 CLs, 2 drone bombardment cruisers, 2 frigates, and a scout to be able to go take out that little blue bat in the corner. We also have Olympus fleet, which is in the top right corner here. You can see they've got a tug, a YDK, and 3 M-era PGBs, along with a Y-era dreadnought, a Y-era strike cruiser, that's the CS. I think it's an M-era strike cruiser. Maybe it's not. Or sorry, I thought it was a Y-era strike cruiser. Maybe it's an M-era strike cruiser with the 5.7. We have 2 M-era light cruisers with the 4.6, 8 frigates with 3 4s, and a total of 3 drone bombardment frigates. The Kzinti as a faction are known for their drones, and so for them to have drone bombardment ships is very interesting. All right. So they've got that going on there. So the the Carnarvon certainly have a lot to potentially deal with. They have the Balkans and the Lyran pocket. They've got the wormhole and guarding it against the Gorn. And then, of course, they're dealing with some sort of minor backyard issues as well. So we'll see how that goes. The ISC also have a bug in their backyard, as you can see here, not identified as of yet, but you can see 4th Fleet is in a position to potentially respond. Let's take a quick look at 4th Fleet. It is, wow, a light cruiser. I don't know that that's going to be enough to be able to do anything, but we have 9th Fleet nearby. Hopefully, let's take a quick look at 9th. Not within movement range because Y ships only move 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. It's unless the bug moves into these 2 hexes, I don't know that 9th Fleet can reach it. We do have some minor ships in and around the area. We do have Enforcement Fleet here on this former Hydran capital. Let's take a look in the named echelons. Enforcement Fleet. Oh, well, Enforcement Fleet can move. There's certainly a lot of M ships here. 2 or 1 CAM, 1 CLM, a scout, 5 M-era frigates. So they could reach out there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No matter where that bug goes, there are some M ships there that could engage it for sure. We'll have to see what ends up happening there and where they go, but little bug to deal with in the backyard. We've also got, as we mentioned before, the November wormhole. We talked about that as the beachhead into, or a potential beachhead into Tholian space. We've got Acropolis Fleet, Pacific, and Athena. So let's take a quick look at this ever so quickly. Athena, was it Prometheus? Pacifica, excuse me. Pacifica and Acropolis. Reman, Acropolis. Where are you? There we go. Boom. Okay. So based on that, these are the 3 fleets that are within close proximity here. So we've got a bunch of K4Ms, which are the K4M. So those are the sort of frigates. We have K4 pluses, KE2 pluses, KD4 pluses. These are all sort of Y era ships. We have another KC4. That is a Y era dreadnought. KD4C command cruiser. KD4 Y era cruiser. A bunch of destroyers, and so 11 frigates, 21 destroyers. These are all. This is basically a whole bunch, with the exception of the K4Ms, whole bunch of Y ships that are in a position to be able to help defend against Brachyfleet, which Brachyfleet, again, these factions, the Juggernaut faction that can come and say hello. Brachyfleet, as you can see here, is a cruiser, with the plus is a dreadnought, a mauler, excuse me. So CA, 12 attack, 12 defense, 8 attack, 8 defense for the CL, 3 DDs, and 6 frigates. So not nothing. And they're within striking range if they have 6 supply, which we assume that they do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 can attack this planet. 6, this YDK. Can also attack this fleet. And, of course, this resource here with a YDK and some fleets to defend it. Cerberus fleet. Let's take a quick look at Cerberus fleet. Not much there, but just enough to be able to sort of be a bit of a speed bump. Acropolis can certainly respond if needed be to deal with Brachy, but that's sort of a concern in this area. Keeping in mind the ISC also have 3rd and Law Fleet in the vicinity. 3rd is, a fair number of M ships, 2 CAs, CL, and 5 FFs. And then, of course, Law Fleet, which going back to the echelons, Law Fleet is 2 C, or is that 2? Yeah, 2 CAMs, a CL, and 7 frigates. So that's a total of 13 frigates, 2 CLMs, and 4 CAMs. So that's nothing to sneeze at, and it could certainly go toe-to-toe with Brachyfleet if need be. Yeah, so there's a lot of excitement happening in this little pocket right here as well. As we scroll up, we can still see the wormholes that lead to the Balkans. There is this and the uniform wormhole that lead to, as I slide over here, this little guy right here, that uniform wormhole. So that is a potential vector that the ISC can use, but they haven't explored this other wormhole, which is, of course, something they can check out. The ISC also have a Kzinti fleet up in the corner here, as well as an old Hydron squadron. So let's go check out the former enemy, the old colony squadron. Is a bunch of look at this, YDN Lord Commander, which is M-era ship. So it has 1.5 fighter factors with a 7 attack, 9 defense. Rangers, which have 2 fighter factors with 6 7s. Lancers, which have 4 5s with 1 fighter factor. Hunters, which are just straight up like frigates. A scout and a tug. So not nothing. And then, of course, we've got this Kzinti battle fleet here. Kzinti battle fleet. Let's take a look. So battle fleet has, oh wow, tug with some battle pods. Battle pods adding 2 attack, 2 defense. Very interesting. A couple CAs, CLM. Wow, 13 frigates, 3 drone bombardment frigates, a scout, a YDN, and a drone cruiser. 3 of them. Interesting. 4 drone factors. It has EW, and it has 5 attack, 7 defense. Wow, that's a really cool ship. That's a really cool ship. Okay. So the ISC have a couple of NPCs in the corners here, and keeping in mind that's a medium planet, which is a 4 EP planet, and this one also a 4 EP planet. So those 2 planets could provide some good economic benefit should the ISC pick them up. And then, of course, let's round it out with our magical caffeine-inspired Remans. They've got, this is sort of their backyard along with the ISC. Not much development going on here, but if I slide my head to the other side, we will see that they've got a little Borak faction up here with 2 M-era PGBs, 4 Y-era, a YDK, and Borak's second fleet has a DN, CA, CL, 5 DDs, and 12 frigates and an escort frigate, all Y-era ships. The one thing about the Borak is that they are incredibly weak offensively, especially initially, so those ships kind of suck. But they have a developing planet, which is a 2 EP planet once it's all... 1 initially, and then 2 when it's fully up and running. We've got this little fleet, Rykon fleet, that is making its way up there to cause or sort out the Borak faction. Let's take a look at that. Rykon fleet is 2 D7s or K7 RMs, a KRM, so it's essentially like a D6, a bunch of K5Ms. Ooh, look at that. 30 attack, 24 defense, 6 of them. Good, good, good. And then, of course, 3 K... Oh, no, there's more than that. There is 9 K4Ms, which are 4 attack, 3 defense ships. So there's quite a few ships that are going to stomp the bejesus out of this Borak faction. So boom, boom, boom. Away we go. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the map roundup. All right. Let's take a little bit of chat going on here. Okay, so we got Dell. Good evening, Bill. No way, dude. No rose-colored glasses, clear lenses. Bill says, as a person not observing reality might say, it's a PF tender. Bill says PF tender. Okay, PF tender. Like pseudo fighter tender? Is that what you mean? Interesting. I'll have to check that out. We've never, in these games that I've played, so I have played Federation Empire once on a board. That was years ago. And then every other time I've played it, it's been in this format. In this 4X format. Not like the standard game, but like the way we're playing it now. Every time I've played it, I have never played a faction that gets to GW, and certainly not late GW. Every game that I've ever played has ended early, like GW just gets discovered. That is the 4th tier of technology. Starts with W, goes to Y, then M, then GW. So we've only ever hit it once, one faction, and it was very short-lived. So I've never seen pseudo fighters even in action in the game. So very, very interesting. Evening, my Dark Alliance buddy. The ISC have arrived. Here we are. It is identified, or was it the other way around? Can't remember. And then Dale saying hi, Dale. All right. So, fantastic. Good times. Here we go. Dale, if you have signed up for the Discord, and for whatever reason you're having a challenge with regards to connecting to us on Discord, then please reach out. If you haven't already, we have a Facebook page for Star Trek New Worlds. And on that page, you can message me, and I'll be able to respond to you there. And otherwise, if you are unable or you're having trouble, leave a comment in this video, and I will respond to you either with the link, or we'll find a way to be able to get in touch, and we can be able to connect and get you on the Discord server if for whatever reason you're having a challenging time. That being said, it's surprisingly seamless, and it works very, very well. So Let me know if there are any issues with regards to that, and I will get on top of that PDFQ. With that said, it has been a fantastic day to be back with you. I am so glad. Whoa, how long have we been live streaming here? My God, it's almost an hour and a half. What do you think? Was it good for you? Was it good for me? Was it exciting, delighting? Was there enough information? Do you want to hear more? Do you want to hear different stories? You let me know. Add your comments in the comments below the chat. And if you haven't already, hit the thumbs up button, the like, the tickle the algorithm in the light way. If you're watching this late in the game, then you obviously like what we're doing. Hit the thumbs up button, make YouTube pay attention, and promote this so that we can get more people in our community having a good time, sharing the news, having fun. And like I say, we're on the lookout for those future and potential GMs. So get them out here so that we can get them involved in the game. PDFQ, pretty damn quick, so that we can get more games up and running and grow our player base. More fun for everyone. That's the plan. With that said, thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful Saturday, and I will see you next week. Ciao for now.